All right, without further ado, let's kind of get right into it. I'm very excited to introduce our guest speaker for you all. His name is James Lawrence. He is the CEO of Engiven, a great partner that we've been able to partner with recently here at Pushpay. If you haven't heard about Engiven, please, not right now while we're on the call, but maybe after the call, go to their website, check them out. They are amazing. I've been very much enjoying my time getting to meet and connect with James over the last few weeks as we've been preparing for our time today. And excited that you guys get to meet him as well and learn about the topic that we're kind of going through today. As you guys know, because you guys signed up for our time and this session for today, we're talking about cryptocurrency, what that means, how can we engage our givers, how can we look forward to new ways of giving. And so that's going to be the heart of our conversation today. James, real quick, can you say hello to everyone that is joining the call today and maybe like a fun fact about you that we don't know?
Oh my goodness. Well, thanks, John. And it's wonderful to be here. We've had so much fun with our partnership with Pushpay, and super excited to talk about cryptocurrency, which is obviously pretty exciting stuff and has been for a while now, and now kind of coming to the masses. I think it's going to be even more important. One fact about me, let's see. When I was in high school, I played saxophone in a reggae band.
Wow. Okay. Was it a ska
related? Not too many
related?
people know that. So there you go.
Was it a ska band or?
It was kind of both. Yeah. It was sort
Okay.
of like, and it's funny because, we were, I grew up in San Diego, and it was we're a bunch of surfer kids that liked reggae, and we thought, let's start a band. And we were terrible, but we had a great time.
Awesome.
So yeah,
that's the one thing, guys, I did not prep James on the call. I wanted to put him on the spot for that specific question. You did great, James. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. All right, guys, before we really get going on today's agenda, real quick, let me go back to that agenda screen. We are going to talk about the ABCs of cryptocurrency. We're then going to lean into some time on how can we engage crypto givers. This is going to be a really great part of our discussion. And then obviously, who is Engiven? What does this partnership look like? And then we'll lean over to some Q&A time. Before we officially get going on our discussion, I got a poll question that I want to ask all of you right now. So I'm launching the poll question here for you to interact with is, are you familiar with cryptocurrency? All right, James, we'll reveal the results here in just a second. A lot of people, yes, have some familiarity with cryptocurrency. Also is kind of split. So there's 40% right now that's just a little bit, just to kind of maybe getting their feet wet, maybe trying to understand this marketplace.
Okay.
All right, we are ending that poll, maybe like 20 more seconds or so to give you guys some time to interact. There's about 75% participation so far. I love, there's 3%. What is crypto? Awesome. This is going to be an awesome session for you today. All right, I'm ending the poll here, guys. I'll share the results here for everyone. You can see that on your screens now, hopefully. All right. James, let's lean in here. What is crypto? Like, what are the ABCs? What is the foundational things about cryptocurrency?
Well, thanks, John. So what I call this the ABCs of cryptocurrency because, crypto is technology. And in technology, we're always learning. So I've been in tech literally since I was a kid, and I still learn something new almost every single day. And so, kind of one of my things that I live by in my personal life and in my tech life is reducing complexity. I love to take things that are really hard to understand and kind of boil them down to simple terms. And simplicity is one of Engiven's core values. And so what I want to try to do today is say, okay, in the last, I've been involved with crypto since about 2011. So it's been a while. And, but in the last 5 years, specifically trying to help ministries kind of leverage the benefits that come with this new asset. I've heard a lot of questions. And so what I wanted to try to do in the limited time that we have is boil them down into like bite-sized chunks that even someone of the 3% that's like, I don't know what crypto even is, will come away with this with an understanding that I think will really help at least set some context for your decision making around should your ministry participate in crypto giving, and all the things that kind of come along with it. So hopefully, everyone will know enough to be dangerous after this. And certainly this is the beginning of the dialogue. And I wanted to make sure that that was really clear, that I think part of our relationship with Pushpay is that we want to bring the education, the know-how, even the compliance and regulatory questions and tax that come up around crypto. We want to make sure that the ministries that we're serving are up to date on those things, and that's part of what we do. So the questions today, the ABCs, and I've got looks like 7 of them, and I'll run through these quickly, and then I'm going to touch on them briefly. We're not going to get into the weeds, but certainly if you've got questions that pop up, put them in the chat, and then we'll see if we can, we'll see what we can get to. So first, what are cryptocurrencies? And A, B, how are cryptocurrencies created? C, how are cryptocurrencies and blockchain related? D, why do cryptocurrencies have value? E, what is the most popular cryptocurrency? F, who owns and gives cryptocurrency? And G, how do we engage cryptocurrency givers? And hopefully G will be worth the wait, because that's why we're here, because we want to use crypto to benefit grow the kingdom and benefit our missions as organizations. So let's just get right into it. What are cryptocurrencies? So cryptocurrencies are digital coins, or sometimes called tokens or coins, created as a store of value and or to provide utility. Some have usefulness and some are just a store of value. So you may have heard, for those of you who've heard a little bit about Bitcoin, for example, and we're going to talk quite a bit more about Bitcoin today. Bitcoin doesn't have any utility inherent in its design. It was really designed as a store of value, something that is a digital asset that can easily be stored and traded and exchanged and what have you. But there are some cryptos out there that have built-in utility. So they have a specific kind of function that's unique to them. And so certain people and organizations will use those cryptocurrencies for that inherent utility in the token that was created. All cryptocurrencies, with very rare exceptions, have value, meaning you can buy them, you can exchange them, trade them, what have you. And this is just a list of a few down here: Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Litecoin. You may have heard of some of these. It's not on here. Dogecoin, a lot of people have heard of because Elon Musk is a big fan of Dogecoin. And these are just all examples of cryptocurrencies that have value and can be stored as a store of value.
Yeah, that's great.
So the next question, and this is like such an interesting one, and there's a lot of nuances here, but I'm going to try to capture it kind of in the widest sense, is that cryptos are created by companies or software programmers that write the token specific functions, its supply, its issuance, its architecture into smart contracts, which govern how the token works. So that's a mouthful. I'm going to try to unpack it a little bit. But the basic big idea here is that cryptos are software. They're created by individuals. They write essentially a program that substantiates kind of what the token does. And it's, as I said, it's supply, it's issuance. So for example, every cryptocurrency has a certain supply. There's a certain amount generally figured out from the very beginning of how many there will be. And how it gets issued, when it gets issued, sort of the nuances or the framework around when it gets distributed and what have you. And then this is all sort of embodied in what we call a smart contract. And a smart contract is, again, it's a piece of software that governs the token's functionality. So if I'm going to send John, for example, some Bitcoin, there's a smart contract for Bitcoin, which everyone who uses Bitcoin abides by, and it's inherent in using it. So you don't have to read the contract, you don't have to negotiate it. It's essentially just the agreement between two parties and how it's going to work in terms of the transaction. And so what's really nice about many cryptocurrencies is that they're trustless from the standpoint of moving from A to B. You don't have to trust the other party because the smart contract essentially handles the trust aspect of it. And so again, the big idea here is that cryptos they're not this naturally occurring thing. They're created by human beings.
Yeah, that was going to be a question that I was going to follow up with you, James, is like, now we're living in the world of AI and those kind of tools being interjected into the workplace and into, obviously on back end systems. Are those kind of tools even involved as well, like during the creation process of crypto?
Well, now, yes. I think initially, like when you look at some of the early created cryptos like Bitcoin, Ethereum, what have you, they were, I don't think AI played, much of a role there. I think now, for example, somebody could go and use Chat GPT, for example, to develop the framework for a new cryptocurrency, and it would provide a lot of useful source code for how the smart contract could work and what have you. So let's just put it this way, you could get from zero to pretty far with some of the AI technologies if you were wanting to create a crypto. And then, traders use AI as well to try to figure out how to, find asymmetrical bets and asymmetrical trading techniques and whatnot to try to, make money trading cryptocurrencies as well.
Right. And then also, just because someone can go and utilize some of these tools to create maybe their own crypto coin, things like that, but they're not all created equal from what I've been learning as well, and so just because someone can doesn't mean that it may be the most secure, or, and lots of other kind of factors kind of play on the back end of those things. So maybe that kind of leads us right into this next part of like how they are secured, how we can keep them kind of, more housed in a particular blockchain, things like that. Can you expand
Mhm.
upon that for us?
Sure. So how are cryptocurrencies and blockchain related? I'm sure you've heard crypto, you've heard blockchain. They are obviously intertwined, but they are different, different entities. So cryptocurrency is a blockchain technology where all electronic transactions are stored and distributed in a general ledger that is made public. So you can think of well, we'll talk about Bitcoin here because I think Bitcoin is the most accessible. So Bitcoin has its own unique blockchain. There are other blockchains like the Ethereum blockchain. There are many, many tokens, including Ethereum, that can be that are essentially registered or using that blockchain. With Bitcoin, they have theirs is bespoke. It's unique to Bitcoin. And when a transaction occurs between two parties, essentially, like another example, I send John $100 in Bitcoin. The Bitcoin blockchain will register that transaction. So we'll know when it was transferred, the amount, any fees associated, and then kind of all the information around how it was verified and validated to make sure that the transaction occurred the way it was supposed to. And that all that information is public. So if you knew his wallet address that I sent to, or my wallet address or whatnot, you could go online and look, and it will show you the transaction. It does not have any personal information associated with it. So no one would be able to see that James sent John Bitcoin. But it's a very new technology, but it works very similar to kind of the way we look at legacy database technology, where there's data stored in very systematic and relational ways, and it's just made public. Now, contrast that, there are some private blockchains that are out there. So, for example, UBS, one of the largest banking institutions in the world, has most of their client account information in a private blockchain that they've built, and obviously, you can only access that private blockchain with the right credentials and what have you. So really, if you think about blockchain, it's this sort of infrastructure layer that cryptocurrency sits on, and it's really a distributed database.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for expanding on that. And also, just real quick reminder, everyone, as we are in this discussion, as questions come up, I'm already seeing some great questions come through the Q&A. And thank you, team. We also have one of the Engiven team members as well. His name is Matt. He is also present on this call, helping to answer some of these in real time. So please use that Q&A. I'm seeing some great questions already come through there. Let's move over to this next part, James, on, how does this have any value?
Right. And I want to get back to too. You brought up a question earlier that I didn't really get to, which is sort of security and safety and all that. And like let's make sure we get to that at some point. I'll keep going here, but I think that was a great question. I want to make sure because that's certainly resonant in a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll go back to that.
Okay, perfect. So why do cryptocurrencies have value? Now, this is a really loaded question. So I want to be careful to say that there's a lot of there's a supply and demand factor. There's an institutional and sort of private consumer aspect. There's a lot of different reasons why some cryptocurrencies have more value than others. But what I'm trying to help establish is sort of the basic reasons around why something like crypto can be created and have value intrinsically. And it's that most cryptos derive their value in the same way any cryptocurrency does, or any currency does, by fulfilling the 6 characteristics of money. And really anything that fulfills these characteristics can ultimately be a currency. Crypto just happens to be one that has kind of taken off. So the first is durability. It can't easily be destroyed, and that's the thing. You've probably heard of stories of someone maybe losing their crypto. I know there was a story about someone who had $30 million of Bitcoin on a laptop that's in a landfill or in the UK or what have you. But the reality is that it's durable. If you follow the right types of security protocols, which actually are not that hard, it is almost impossible to destroy your crypto. And that's actually a really nice thing about it. Portability is the next. It's easy to move. So cryptocurrencies are super portable. I can send, and I've done this. I've got a friend that lives, in the Middle East. I've got a friend that lives in the UK, whatnot, and we've been able to send each other a crypto, and it takes, in some cases, seconds. It's very easy to move. If you've ever done an international bank wire, you know that there's a certain amount of effort required in that. It's almost instant with crypto, so it's a really, really wonderful way to move value or assets to someone else, especially over long distances. Divisibility is the next. It can be reduced to small amounts. So a lot of folks don't know that, like, for example, one Bitcoin right now is roughly $30,000, but I can divide a Bitcoin down into 30 cents. So if I wanted to send someone 30 cents a Bitcoin, I can do that. So it's very nice in terms of its divisibility framework. Fungibility is next. So it's easily exchanged for like value. So for example, I could exchange 1 Bitcoin for 10 Ethereum. I think that's about right. Maybe it's 20 Ethereum now. I can exchange it for other types of assets. You can buy a condo in New York. You can book a vacation. If in El Salvador right now, you can buy street tacos and pay your electric bill with Bitcoin. So it's pretty easily used as far as fungibility. Which is similar to acceptability, which I'll get to in a second. Scarcity, it's limited by design. So we'll talk about this in a second around Bitcoin, but almost without exception, every crypto has a scarcity model built into it. So unlike in certain countries where the Federal Reserves will authorize the printing of capital or cash as they need it, most cryptocurrencies have a finite amount issued from the very beginning or will be issued over time. And lastly is acceptability. So I talked about some already, but it can be used globally in a variety of ways. So Bitcoin, for example, as we know, is traded in just about every country in the world. And it's pretty accessible as an asset. That's one of the reasons it's been so popular. So these are the six characteristics of money, and many, if not most, cryptocurrencies adhere to these. To your point, John, some cryptos are much more valuable than others, but it certainly meets this basic criteria, which is, I think, one of the reasons why it's been so popular.
Yeah, me and my family, we live here in downtown Seattle, and the condo in where we live actually started to accept crypto as a form to pay, for our rent here. And so it's very interesting. And yeah, like even some of the, obviously real estate is kind of getting into that space as well. It's kind of crazy. All right, here, let's talk about obviously the big dog in that playground, that being Bitcoin.
Yes. So I'm going to assume that just about everyone here has heard of Bitcoin. It was the first cryptocurrency. I'll talk, kind of go through a little bit of the detail here, but it's how I initially got involved in crypto. I had bought some Bitcoin really early on, and one of the reasons we started Engiven was I was kind of looking around trying to find, well, one, my church, my home church. I went and asked if I could donate some Bitcoin, and they told me no. So they didn't have any concept, and so I thought, oh, there's a real interesting potential opportunity here. So it is the big dog. It has been around the longest. So some kind of details about it. We talked about supply. There's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin ever minted. The current supply is about 19 million and change. So it's kind of interesting that almost all the Bitcoin that's ever going to be made has been made. And it's an interesting, there's a lot of theories rolling around about what's going to happen to the price of Bitcoin when there's no more being minted, and what's that going to do to it and whatnot. We shall see. The last Bitcoin will be minted around 2140. And then from our experience, more than 70% of all crypto donations are in Bitcoin. The longer we, kind of stretch things out with stable coins, which are crypto coins valued at $1, a lot of those are being given now. But Bitcoin is definitely the king as it relates to donations.
Yeah, it seems to be obviously evolving technology and kind of on how they got it started, but as well as just seeing their progression specifically in that marketplace, and the value that holds, amongst all the other, options that are available. So yeah, let's keep that going on this next part of, how can, this be, just continuing on that part here with our Bitcoin part of this conversation.
Yeah, and I think it's fascinating because I think understanding kind of the way it created and its evolution and what have you, I think is important for people who don't have a lot of context around crypto to understand that it wasn't just sort of created and became popular. It's actually taken some time. So like right now, and a lot of folks think, oh well, maybe it's not really valuable or whatever, but it is the first. Bitcoin was the first and largest cryptocurrency with currently a $600 billion market cap. So if you took all the Bitcoin in the world right now and put them in a bucket, it'd be worth 600 billion. It was invented or deployed onto the internet in 2009 by an anonymous person or persons we know as Satoshi Nakamoto. And this, of course, makes the story of Bitcoin so fun and intriguing, is that we don't know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. We don't know if it was a group of people, if it was male or female. All we know is that this thing called Bitcoin just suddenly showed up. And the theory is that the timing was sort of intentional, and that it came out about a year after kind of the major banking crisis we all experienced back in 2008. And the theory is that Satoshi wanted an asset that could easily be exchanged sort of outside the purview of federal governments and the banking system, the global banking system. And the truth is what he and or they set out to accomplish, they absolutely did, which is pretty striking, considering. So funny story, in 2010, the first reported transaction of goods or services were purchased using Bitcoin. Some of you have probably heard this story. It is actually a true story. 2 Papa John's pizzas were purchased for 10,000 Bitcoins, $41 of value at the time, now worth $300 million. And there's the individual, and those are those $300 million pizzas. And hopefully he had some leftover Bitcoin after that. But May 22nd, you can go to Papa John's Pizza, and if you use Bitcoin, you get a discount to this day. So there you have it. A little bit of Bitcoin folklore for you, but fun stuff. So if you've ever felt like you missed the boat on something, just remember Papa John's Pizzas for here. So
that's awesome. I'd like to invite
more.
Matt into this call. Right now I can see him typing away probably on a question. I think it's a good question just for the group overall, since we're on this topic. Matt, if you would be so inclined to jump in here on the question that Laura was asking, is Bitcoin a physical coin? I think it's just helpful for us to review that real quick. Is it physical? And if not, where is it being minted?
Yeah, that's a great question, it's a question that we actually get a lot, because anytime you read about Bitcoin, a lot of times the image that they'll put on the story is sort of a pile of coins with a big B on it, as if they are physical Bitcoins. But Bitcoins are not physical; they're instead electronic units of measurement that are used to account for transactions. So James, is sort of talked about the total supply of Bitcoins. There's going to be 21 million at the end total, but those Bitcoins are all divisible into tiny fractions, actually down to 18 decimal points. And so really it's a unit of accounting that allows people to sort of measure sort of their ownership in that total potential ecosystem, which is Bitcoin. And so mining is interesting, and without getting too wonky, the idea of mining is that the Bitcoin system has to be operated. It has to be supported, and transactions, one person to another, have to be validated. Meaning if I have Bitcoin and I want to send it to James, someone has to be able to say that I have Bitcoin to send to James, and that I'm authorized to send that Bitcoin to James. That work of validation, which is similar to the work that Visa does when they validate, a transaction between two people from a credit card to buy a candy bar at 7-Eleven, that work is done by miners. And those miners essentially do a lot of computational work very fast, and that supports this network. And when miners validate transactions, the system actually creates new Bitcoins to reward and incentivize those miners to do that work. And so that's how these Bitcoins are being created, until we get to 21 million, which will be, probably, I won't be alive probably for that. Maybe I will, but we're sort of winding our way there. So the system is supported by miners who are validating the transactions. Those miners are incentivized to do that work, to contribute that computing power by these new minted tokens, which then become theirs as a reward.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And just for review, guys, Matt serves Engiven as their president. So super honored to have him join this call as well. Thank you, Matt. All right. James, how is this used? Honestly, like, how is this stuff used? Can you kind of break that down for us a little bit?
Yeah, I think, and that's kind of one of the fun things about Bitcoin is I started out by saying there wasn't any sort of designed utility in it from the beginning, but it is sort of gained utility over time. And so as I mentioned before, it could be used as a means of exchange to purchase goods or services. It can be used as a store of value, like gold, and that's kind of the latest name it's been given is digital gold. And in some ways it is, because it is a store of value. It's easily accessible and transferable. There's ready buyers for it, but you don't have to store it in a safe deposit box or under your bed or whatnot. So in some ways kind of better than gold, and as an asset to donate, like stock or property. And so yeah, this kind of will lead us into more talking about crypto as an asset for giving. And one of the reasons it's here's a few reasons that I think it's a really, really excellent asset for donation. And first, it's easy and safe to donate. I know that if you pay attention to the news cycle, there's been a lot of negative news around crypto. Most of that has been around individuals making poor decisions, fraud, what have you. The asset itself is actually very easy and safe to donate. It's very easy and safe to use, provided you take reliable precautions in the same way you would take reliable precautions with your credit cards or your wallet or your purse or whatnot. But what we have endeavored to do is to try to make crypto as easy and safe to donate as a credit card. And that's taken some trial and error, because there are inherent complexities in crypto that don't exist in credit cards, for example. But I think we've really pulled that off. And so we've made it really easy for donors to give, and for ministries to accept. It has excellent tax benefits for the donor. So if you're familiar at all with sort of the capital gain structure in the US, if you purchase something, generally we think of capital gains related to investments. And that's primarily true, but really any property that we buy at a certain price and it appreciates, when we donate that, as the donor, we get the full tax benefit of the full value, even though we paid a
Mm.
smaller amount. And the nonprofit, in this case, ministries and churches, they get the full amount of that donation. So it's really a win-win for ministry. It's a win-win for the donor. So crypto is treated exactly the same way. So if you bought Bitcoin at 1,000 and you're now donating it at 30,000, you have a wonderful, essentially tax deduction, and you don't pay the delta on those capital gains. So that's one of the reasons it is considered a major gift. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And the IRS has provided strong guidance for it as property. So really, really early on, the IRS saw, in that case, Bitcoin and crypto coming, and they said, we're gonna deem this as a property, which is kind of interesting when you consider that it's not physical.
Yeah.
But it is considered property by the IRS, and it's easy to exchange for US dollars. And I think that's kind of the key thing too, is it didn't used to be very easy to exchange for dollars we can spend, paying our bills and whatnot. And one of the things we endeavored to do early on was to develop an automated exchange system. So, for example, if you use Pushpay to accept crypto donations, it'll be turned to cash instantly. And I think that's really, really important. Most ministries don't want to hold assets, whatnot. And now it's really easy to do. So 24/7, it gets exchanged for US dollars.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great stuff. Thank you for unpacking that a little bit. Let's transition over here to, like who uses this? I myself have obviously been a student of this for the last few years on a personal financial level. And when I talked to some of my friends about it, I was even surprised that, some of the different circles that I'm involved with get to learn that they have also been exploring and kind of been getting their feet wet, moving some of their assets over in this particular, form of a nest egg, so to speak, in a way. And so, can you unpack this part of it? Because I know this part is very, very encouraging for maybe some to hear for the first time of like, different members in their, like, so who we're talking to today, obviously, are church leaders, nonprofits. They might be surprised of like who's actually involved in this space.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm still surprised when we see certain donations come in and whatnot. And obviously, we don't know every donor and what have you, but we endeavor to try to figure out who's doing what. And so some of this is our own information, some of this is gleaned from other sources, but what we found is that and I say major crypto donors because really most crypto donations are major gifts. They're investors, they're engineers, entrepreneurs, and everyday people. And so I know that's kind of a large swath, but what I found is that yes, people who have been in tech for a while are the ones who generally got into crypto pretty early. Software engineers specifically, but there's entrepreneurs and people who are investors who they invest in real estate, they're invest in businesses. They also generally get into new assets fairly early on, and so you have all of these groups represented in your churches and ministries, and many of them are very likely major crypto holders. Statistically, that there's a lot of demographic surveys that have been done. This 10 to 15% of your givers own some crypto, and that's pretty standard. Some will say up to 20. This stat actually comes out of the annual Gemini report. They do a really in-depth demographic study every year, and what they say is I think the number last year was 14%. I try to be conservative, but I think you can conservatively look out at your congregations and say that 10 to 15% of those who are involved own some crypto. Now, how much do they own? Do they own enough to write a six-figure check? That's a different question. But it's not as if you mention crypto on Sunday. No one's going to know what you're talking about. You have a group of people there that get it. The demographics trend males in their 30s, although that's changing as crypto gets a little bit older and there's more variety. A lot of females are into crypto too. By our estimates, about 600 million in crypto was donated in 2022. So still a small segment of the $400+ billion annual giving, but growing very rapidly. The average donation on the Engiven platform is $15,000. And so I
Wow.
think that's one of those things that I think, a lot of churches and ministries don't receive a lot of major gifts. And so 15,000 gift, I think for many churches would be meaningful. And that number has really been true from the beginning. And so I think that's the part where I think it's important to think about the opportunity, because you might only receive 1 or 2 gifts a year, but they tend to be sizable. And
Such
as
a
I go to
great
my last
impact
point,
for that organization
right?
receiving that. Yes.
Yeah, and we've, as I go to my last point here, is that we've processed 2 of the largest crypto donations on record, 10 million for a ministry and 15 million for a university.
Wow.
And I can tell you specifically we're talking about ministries today, but I can tell you there's a lot of ministries that have signed up with us that didn't necessarily have a group of crypto donors. They didn't necessarily even have an individual that they thought was going to give. They just wanted to make sure they were ready. And some of them have received really sizable gifts, and they're just blown
Mm.
away because they had no idea. But it's kind of one of those things where, you have to kind of set the table and let people know that it's there, and then you can see what, where the Lord leads, so to speak.
That's great. I think that is a great segue, obviously, to a story, right? That's related in this whole journey, especially
Mhm.
with Engiven, with one of the churches that you've been able to support as well.
Yeah.
Tell us about Awaken.
So Awaken is an awesome church. They're in San Diego. I believe they also have a location in Utah, and they're just amazing. And they have been they're pretty crypto savvy church, young church. And I just wanted to kind of point out kind of a few things that they have done that I think really exemplify kind of the right way of engaging, their congregations, what have you.
Mhm.
And they feature crypto prominently on their website. So that's part of it, is that they just let people know, hey, we, like, if you're into crypto, we support you, we hear you. They use Pushpay for their digital giving, so they're obviously kind of up to speed with Pushpay's technologies. They've received 5 and 6 figure crypto gifts, and they work to create a culture of generosity with young families and tech savvy attendees. And I think for churches that have a younger, trending younger audience, they're right in the sweet spot for crypto. And for those who, maybe have a little bit of an older congregation, I just want to encourage you that many of the biggest donations we've ever processed for ministries have come from donors that are in their 50s, 60s, and even 70s. And so, keep in mind that the demographic of kind of the young Gen Z millennial who owns some crypto, yes, by and large, the younger groups own a greater percentage of them own crypto, but they're generally not the ones making the major gifts. It's usually the
Mhm.
older folks who have, had time to generate some wealth. So just wanted to spotlight, one, yeah, they're, we're based out of San Diego, and so are they. And they just do such a they have a wonderful ministry here. And but I also think that they're just kind of doing the basic blocking and tackling that is working
Yeah.
for relating to crypto giving.
I don't know if it was Awaken when you and I were kind of, in our introductory mode of getting to know each other before today's conversation, but you had mentioned, again, I don't know if it was Awaken, but there was another church organization that you were working with that one of their members was just asking the question, hey, is this something that you guys are involved with? Then that, I guess, had their executive leadership kind of like, maybe their ears were percolated. Well, maybe we should look into this a little bit further.
Mm-hmm.
Then eventually they did get involved with Engiven. And then that person like immediately blessed the church with, I think you said close to a $10,000 gift or something like that via crypto, and just immediately, a blessing, to that church that maybe, again, building out that infrastructure within your organization as well is super helpful, because gifts like that can be coming in and being able to bless your community partners that you get to serve, or other mission outreach programs that you are involved
Mm-hmm.
with, and having an opportunity to be in that place where you can accept things like this is it's a great win for the ministry, and just advancing, as we've been talking about today, and the future of giving, really, and kind of what that looks like. Awesome. We got a poll question here. Oh,
yeah,
sorry,
go
go
ahead.
for it,
Yeah.
James. No, go for it.
No. Yeah, I was just going to say, we've had many instances. I was just thinking of a church in Minneapolis that signed up. They did a small capital campaign and they announced accepting crypto as part of that. And I remember that talking to their pastor, and he was saying, "Well, we don't know if we have any crypto people in our church, but we just want to make this available. We think it's cool."
Mm-hmm.
And they received $400,000 in crypto in the first 3 days.
Wow.
Which they were
That's
just
awesome.
completely blown away. They're like, we had
Yeah.
no idea this is here. And I think that's just really, and obviously that's not necessarily going to be the case for everyone, but I think what it demonstrates is, there's an opportunity here, and we want to make as many giving pathways to support our ministry as possible. So
That's great. I love that. And hopefully, as you guys are obviously leaning into this discussion, it's been an open discussion. We really want to keep this kind of loose. And if I love the questions that are coming through, guys, please keep sending it. And thank you so much to Matt and the rest of the team as well. David, who's one of our team members here on the tech side, answering some of these questions. So thank you guys so much for the involvement and the participation in today's discussion. On that note, let's keep some of that participation alive. I got another poll question for y'all, and that is your church accepting crypto as a way to give? All right, already about 20%, James, are using crypto as a way to give. 55% so far are not, and 26%, are still curious about it, still want to learn more about this space. 74% participation overall on this poll question. We'll leave it up just for a few more seconds before we talk about, how we can engage crypto givers. All right, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, okay, sharing the results with everyone. 20% yes, about 20%, 52% aren't yet utilizing crypto as a way to give, and 29% are still learning more about it. So let's talk about that. James, how can we engage crypto givers?
Well, I think there's really just a few basics. And again, I kind of want to reiterate the point I made earlier, and that's that, the crypto is just an asset. It has been sort of captured the minds of younger folks. So I think that's an important part to consider. But I think overall, the most important thing is just make it easy to give. Sign up for Pushpay Crypto Giving. There's very little downside to providing it as an asset. And I might date myself a little bit, but I remember not too long ago where the vast majority of churches did not accept credit cards for donations. Mm-hmm. And Pushpay helped develop that whole market by making digital giving easy for ministries. And we saw a time where giving went from a very small percentage of credit card or zero to a very high percentage. And crypto is sort of, I think, part of that digital giving strategy. So that's, if you've heard nothing today, but this is just make it easy for your crypto donors to give, and they will. The second thing is talk about crypto during your giving time on Sunday. You can put a QR code in your bulletin, put it online, what have you. And I think, crypto people are a little unique. There's some folks who are really, really passionate about it. And I think you just want to provide them with, just kind of that acknowledgement that we see you and we respect, this path for giving. So again, just being able to mention it, I think, is a big deal. And then if you've received major gifts in the past, reach out to those givers about crypto. Oftentimes what we've seen is the same people who have written kind of the large checks for capital campaigns and whatnot are the same folks who have the ability to give crypto. And it's usually over and above. So usually crypto giving we see is not taking away from your traditional tithes and offerings. So it's usually above that, which is found money in most cases. And then lastly, make sure you convey the strong tax advantages of donating crypto to your givers. A lot of folks have given and not even realize that there's this wonderful tax benefit that they get. So really kind of these four things, like I said before, kind of your basic blocking and tackling around giving. We all know that when we talk about giving, giving grows. And so it's really just kind of adding crypto into that narrative.
Yeah, no, I love that. Just to expand upon that just a little bit more for everyone leaning in today is if you aren't already having some type of quarterly or let's say twice a year at the least type of email drip campaign that is talking about generosity within your organization, whether that's celebrating it or always having a call to action for things that you're supporting or introducing into the ways to give for your strongest donors that are helping to support your ministry, please start something like that. Do a drip campaign, carry that over 3 to 4 weeks. And maybe once a week, you're highlighting a different way to give. The church where I was on staff for a while, our executive pastor was very knowledgeable about this space overall. And towards the end of year, so this is more towards end of year giving, we would highlight different ways that someone can give to the church to help support what we're doing. And we would mention a myriad of different options outside of just the normal cash, check, or online giving. And part of that is these type of new resources available today. So carry that conversation over, but tie it into a story as well. Celebrate something because of someone's generosity that you've been able to, do X, Y, Z as an organization and highlight those things. And within that communication, have a call to action at the end of each one of those touch points that you have with your community members that is giving them an option to now start to lean in with you guys financially on some of these other things that you guys are passionate about as an organization. So hopefully that's helpful for you. And that, James, let's talk about more who is Engiven. Maybe a little bit of your guys' story as we kind of wrap up with our time today. And again, thank you guys so much for the questions. If we get a little bit of time for some live Q&A, we'll do that. But I'm just watching the Q&A here, and you guys are doing a great job, team. So thank you so much. James, who are you guys? Like, who's Engiven? What's a little bit of your guys' story?
Well, the short answer is we're a leader in complex giving software. We serve ministries, financial institutions, universities, and giving platforms like Pushpay. We're really about kind of providing the infrastructure to organizations that want to safely and easily accept complex gifts. We're founded in 2018 by software entrepreneurs and ministry leaders. So my co-founder, Matt, who's on here answering questions, typing away. We both have ministry backgrounds. We've served in youth ministry and in leadership and one of the largest churches in America. So we understand kind of the inner workings of church. And we've always just had a passion for developing great technologies for the church. And we just always want the church to be first when it comes to tech, not to be last. We think the church deserves it, and we think church staff and the congregations deserve it. And I think that's really kind of our driving factor. We do about 40% of our customers are public charities and universities and whatnot, but our heart is really with the local church and with ministries. And so we're really blessed to serve, a good chunk of the top 100 churches and most of the major parachurch organizations in the US and many of the multinational missions ministries and what have you. And our core values are simplicity, relationships, and integrity. And that's really what you'll find when you work with us. And I know that's one of the reasons why we wanted to work with Pushpay, because we believe that those core values are inherent in what they do as well. So excited about what we've got going on here.
No, we are very thankful for like the partnership that we get to have with you and your team and the staff, and how because I obviously have been a student of this process, as we were getting ready for today, but just learning so much about just this hand that we're shaking with Engiven and those opportunities that we can now give donors at these organizations a new way, a new opportunity to really, go, like you said, go above and beyond, in giving, and just have that opportunity to make an impact, in some ways. And sometimes it just might surprise you, everyone, who's actually involved in some of these, different things within your organization. So let's kind of go into like some of the things that we kind of shake hands with, that we're kind of in partnership with. I'd love for you to help expand upon that. And guys, just a little teaser in case you try to end off a little early. We got a little short announcement towards the end of this about how we're expanding on this partnership with Pushpay and Engiven. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, sure. I can run through this quickly, and I think it's more of kind of where the rubber meets the road. What makes this a great opportunity, for Pushpay users, and really, Pushpay and Engiven kind of combines the best of breed of two platforms. Pushpay, obviously, with traditional digital giving and church management, streaming, what have you, and Engiven really with non-cash contribution technologies. So you're really kind of getting these like the strengths. It's kind of the 1 + 1 = 3. We provide a frictionless crypto giving sign-up process. So to allow your church to accept crypto donations via Pushpay, it's like a less than a 5-minute process. It automatically will add crypto giving to your Pushpay giving page. So you'll get a link right on there when people go there to give. Maybe they're going there to give a credit card. They'll see, oh, you accept crypto now, which makes it really easy. There's no annual subscription fee and a low transaction fee for each donation. So really, we're partnering all together here. If you don't receive crypto donations, it doesn't cost anything. And then we provide greater visibility to your givers. So we talked about kind of meeting your givers where they're at, and future-proofs your giving. And I think future-proofing giving is an important step. You want to be demonstrating to your givers that you're thinking about kind of better ways, more efficient ways, safer ways for them to give. And lastly, crypto tends to be major gifts. And so there's lots of upside potential, and you won't know what that potential is until you jump in.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for expanding. Yes, please, guys, if you are very much interested in learning more about how this can, make an impact into the generosity tools that you're already investing into with Pushpay, please let us know. Go ahead and write into care@pushpay.com. Attention your CSM. If you have direct access to your CSM, please let them know. We are very much awaiting and wanting to have this discussion with you so that you guys can learn more about these opportunities within your organization. All right, guys, I think we teased it long enough. We do have we're not Apple, okay? We don't have a one more thing, okay? We have what's next, okay? That's what we got. So not a one more thing, more of a what's next. James, I'd love for you to announce this for I guess the first time here, really, for those that are leaning in, and there will be a lot more communication that is sent out after this announcement. James, take it away, sir.
All right. So obviously, we've been focused on crypto giving for quite some time, and about 18 months ago, we started down the path of wanting to develop a easy to use, highly automated stock giving solution. And so Pushpay is going to be rolling out stock giving for their customers here by the end of July, coming in late July. I'm sure you'll be hearing more about it in the next coming days, certainly weeks. And basically just easily add a stock giving widget to your Pushpay giving page in the same way where you can add, you're doing credit card, now you can do crypto, now you can do stock. Stock giving is about a $60 billion a year asset. So there's a lot of stock is given to ministries, to nonprofits of all shapes and sizes. And some of the benefits are we provide the required documents for the donor to initiate their stock transfer. So we make that easy. And then we monitor the process each step of the way and provide email updates. So if you're an organization that's used to receiving some stock gifts, you know that most of the time you have to contact your broker to get updates. Sometimes you find out a month after you receive a stock gift that you received it, and you have to try to find out exactly where it came from and what have you. And what our system does, it lets you know along the way who gave, how much, when the assets have been transferred, when they've been sold, and when the money is in your account. And so we've wanted to really simplify and automate that process. And we're pretty excited to be rolling it out with Pushpay through this partnership. And it will be available to you in your ministries in the next week or two.
This is awesome, guys. This is such an amazing win for the giver experience of being able to bless your organization in this way. Again, just from a personal standpoint, our church organization was doing something like this, but it was outside the means of like utilizing these tools. But now that we can bring kind of everything within that space, and already what's a great and seamless giving experience already that our givers know and love, being able to do something like this and having that linkage and connection is just awesome. It's going to be a game changer, I know, for our ministry directly. So we're going to be excited to kind of turn a lot of these things on pretty soon, to be able to benefit from. All right, guys. First of all, thank you, James, so much for spending time with us, spending this time. Hopefully this was a very fruitful conversation for you that were able to join live. If you're watching the recording, we hope that this was helpful for you as well. We do have just a few minutes left. We're going to try to get to maybe 1 or 2 questions if we can, but just real quick, we do these webinars every single month, everyone, and they're available also on pushpayuniversity.com. And so if you have never been to pushpayuniversity.com, do us a favor, go there. There's a huge resource library for you to dive into for training. A lot of what we do in ministry is tribal knowledge. So we love to pass that stuff down to you, help you, learn some of the nitty gritty and get into the weeds of, what you guys are wanting to be experts of with our tools at your organization. So do us a huge favor, guys, go ahead and visit that site. Our archives of all of these sessions are on there. They're under the banner of strategic webinars. And so if you find that banner and find that course module on Pushpay University, please go ahead and click on that. If you have like your phone right now, just point it to the screen. You can scan the QR code right now. It will take you directly over to the strategic webinars archive, so you can kind of browse some of the past sessions that we've had. We really try to get into a great discussion around some very topical things on how to support your ministry, things that we know that are working in the marketplace. Some of it coming from, direct ministry experience for some of our team members as well. So we'd love to have you guys be part of that conversation on an ongoing basis. We continue this stuff every single month, guys. So every month there's a brand new webinar. Okay, so be on the lookout for those communications coming from our team to your organizations. I do want to respect your time. There's about 2 questions in the queue that have not yet got answered. Let's try to see if we can get these answers right before the top of the hour. And then if you can hang out with us a little bit longer, that's okay. And then we will end right after we can get through these questions. So let's see. Actually, I think they're kind of going through already. Is there a fee for stock donation? Also 4%. I think that's to be determined still. And so we'll have more details centered around how the integration and the processing of those things look like. So not ready to share just yet. The more information coming towards the end of July on that. Other than that, I think all the questions are through. Guys, it is top of the hour. We're going to call it here. We're going to thank you so much for everyone joining. Thank you to the team who has been able to answer all of these questions in real time via the chat. We cannot thank you guys so much. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, James. Thank you, team, for leaning in. Guys, have a great rest of your day, a great week, and we will see you guys on the next webinar. See ya.
Thanks, everybody.